get set for segment 1. International Series race. A 26-lapper and a 24-lapper just in case it rains. We've been in a rain delay situation for most of the afternoon. Let's set the field for the first segment. Row number 1 on the inside, the 00 of Steve Miller. On the outside, the 80 of Mike Knapp.
And row number 2, drawing the inside position, the 25 of Dave Wickham. He joined her the high group by the 86 of Dennis Demers.
Row 3 will be the 57 of Jim Barton and the 40 of Dwayne Lanfear.
Row 4, the guy running second in the International Series points, the 45 of Brian Hoare. He looks over his right shoulder. He sees a 52 of Barry Schwartz.
They'll be followed by the 0 of Brent Dragon and the 92 of Chris Durkee.
Falling back another row, far traveler here, the 39 of Danbury, Connecticut's George Bassett, and the 32 of Jean-Paul Cyr. Interesting story. In practice, Jean-Paul blew an engine in the 32. The rain delayed, let him put an engine in, and he's ready to start.
Matt Cyr is behind the wheel of the 33, and in the 14 car is Phil Scott.
Next row back, the 63 of Buck O'Brien with the 2 of Storm and Norman Andrews.
The 91 is Wild Bill Fountain. And on the outside, the 1 of the veteran from Hyde Park, Vermont, Red Mead.
Rookie of the year in this division in Airborne. The 76 is Steve Renner to the inside. The 42 of Tony Poisson on the high groove.
We go back one more row and find the 29 of Brett Wheeler and the 46 of Doug Hoare.
Yet another row. The Lavender 13 of Richard Bootsy and the 83 of Timmy Patinka.
The 50 is Norman Gay, and in the 8, Ed Companion.
The 64 of Robin Brandon, and he's joined by fellow New Yorker, the 66 of Joe Thomas.
Dropping back further in the field, the 17 of Lonnie Lackalate and the 86 of Fred Lagoy.
Then comes the 49 of Mark Lanfear, along with the 08 of Steve Minsky-Mitten.
Further back in the field, the 48 of Glenn Wright and the 68 of Jim Silly.
Rounding out this field, the 21 of Kevin Kezar, shotgun to the 75 of Pete Fecto, and we are ready, willing, and able to set him loose. 26 laps. The first segment, just in case Mother Nature doesn't cooperate.
It should be a good race. Steve Miller's on the pole for segment 1. And to call it, here's Steve Hayes.
I'll tell you what, fans, if I'm going to pick a winner, I'm looking at the inside of the first 2 rows. Miller or Wickham. They are the quickest cars, in my opinion. And starting that far up with this big a field, they should have everything their own way. Miller and the 80 set them on their way. No surprise that Steve Miller jumped out to the lead. He is followed through by Dave Wickham, then Dennis Demers. Mike Knapp, outside pole setter, going nowhere in a hurry. In case you're wondering, in the series, or International Series point standings, Dave Wickham is your point leader, followed by Brian Hoare. This is the 8th and final event of that series, so we'll try to keep you abreast of where the 25 and the 45 are running. Trouble on the backstretch, 52, Barry Schwartz spins right in front of the field, and everybody avoids him. Also involved, Brett Wheeler with a 29, the 42, Tony Poisson. One of the Hoare automobiles, either Doug or Brian. I see Brian, so it is Doug Hoare off of turn 3. First caution, and we are going to have to line him up. That could have been potentially dangerous as Barry Schwartz got loose in front of most of the field, and everybody avoided him.
We get ready for the restart. 1 lap complete. Steve Miller and Dave Whitcomb in row 2. Row 1, rather. Dennis Demers, Mike Knapp, row 2. Dwayne Lanfear, Jim Barton in row 3. Couple driver changes from the lineup. Dave Gay is driving the 50, and Monty Lemaire is in car 49. Steve?
Getting ready to go back on the green flag with 1 down and 25 to go in the first segment. Steve Miller with a big lead at the stripe. The leader gets to set the pace, and Miller gets out in a big way. Dennis Demers flies past the 25 and seen Dave Wickham in the battle for second. Wickham still to a battle, but Demers with the inside preferred line. The last International Series race that featured Wickham won the race, and that gave him about a 9-point advantage over Brian Hoare, heading into this season's final event in the series. Well, Red Meat, Brent Dragon, a few points, 10-15 behind Brian Hoare, so a lot of guys in contention here with this many cars. Steve Miller, your race leader. Dennis Demers just came on like a cannon at the end of the season, runs second. eye on Miller and Wickham. You'll see Brian Demers as he has really come together. Demers working over the back end of the Miller machine. The top five real quick. Miller, Demers, 3 car lengths back to Wickham, 2 car lengths back to Knapp, and this Wayne Lambert. It took a while, but Doug Horse, number 46, was removed from the trees and pre-replaced piece of machinery, and he was able to start at the back of the pack. Back up front, the top 5 separating himself a bit. Miller still in control, but Dennis Demers all over the back end. Now Dave Wickham close on Demers' car, and it is still Mike Knapp, Dwayne Lambert rounding out the top 5. Lonnie Lackley with the 17 players for the most trouble on that machine. Glenn Wright already going to lap down with only 6 in the record book. On this edition of MSM, we will be showing you all the action from the Rain Down J&J discount night that was held early August and Mother Nature rained on. Tune in next week for all the action that we take from the Fall Foley 300 racing held on Sunday afternoon. A lot of racing this past weekend, so we divided into 2 shows. Half this week and half next week on MSN. Back up front, Steve Miller has pulled away from Demers by about 6 car lengths. But Dennis Demers has his hands full trying to hold off the hard charger Dave Wickham. Wickham right on the back end of the 86. And about 7 car lengths back, behind that, the 80 of now the 40 of left, you're running just as slow. Well, in the battle for the international title, Wickham runs 3rd, Brian Hoare runs 6th. That's not going to do Brian any good. Of course, this is a 2-segment event. 26 laps this segment, 24 the second. That's just in case it starts to rain. With 26 laps of the book, that is half plus 1 the race would be considered official. Lap traffic coming into play big time with the leaders now. Taking a look back at position 4 and 5, Nance and Lambert. Guy on the move is a 0 of Red Dragon. Red Dragon start to move up in a hurry, currently 6th. It's a good job here by the 80 of Mike Knapp. Started outside pole, not a regular competitor here in Airborne, but he is really hanging tough, holding off the 40 of Wayne Lambert. Halfway that time by, 13 down, 13 to go, and Steve Miller looks like he's in control, but with Dennis Demers and Dave Wickham behind him, I don't know how much of a control that really is. Only the 1 caution so far. And with this many cars on the track, that's a testimonial to these guys driving. In about 4 laps, Steve Miller is going to come up on a bunch of traffic that you will not believe. I count 14 automobiles running together, and Steve Miller is about 10 car lengths behind them. And man, oh man, is lap traffic going to play into this? Miller will join that big pack with about 3 car lengths lead over Demers and a couple of car lengths more over Wickham. Well, there's Miller. And there's the traffic. First to 64, Robin brought him on the hit list, but watch out, Steve. Dennis Demers ducks inside. Steve Miller was caught napping. Miller started a big lead, was caught napping, and Dennis Demers takes the top spot. Trouble! Doug Hoare and Glenn Wright there together. Doug Hoare door panel is right in the middle of the track. That brings out a caution. So Doug Hoare involved in both of the cautions. Several cars running over that door panel. Someone could be cutting a tire. We're going to have to line this up again. And I'll tell you what, fans. Steve Miller was caught napping. Expect him to make amends on Dennis Demers.
Steve, where did Dennis Demers come from?
Well, he was running a few car lengths behind Miller, and I was talking about that big pack of cars. Miller came up to it, and I think he forgot to look at his rearview mirror because Dennis Demers just shot underneath it from nowhere.
Well, as you saw on the scoreboard, they're going to go back to the last completed lap. That will give the advantage back to Steve Miller, so A bit of misfortune for Demers. He did catch Miller sleeping, and too bad for Demers, the caution came out.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve's going to have his hands full, because not only will Dennis be right next to him, but Dave Wickham is going to be right behind him again. And I'll tell you, I'm never going to count that 25 car out.
We want to tell everybody what's coming up in the program tonight. We'll have also the Flying Tiger main event, the Street Stock main event, as well as the second half of this late model Sportsman International Series race. And that'll be immediately followed by the high school football game of the week as the Mariah Vikings come to Plattsburgh to take on the Seton Catholic Knights. Next week, Thursday night at 8 o'clock, MotorSports Magazine will feature all the qualifying action as well as the main events from the Fall Foliage 300 weekend for the late model Sportsman, Flying Tigers, and Street Stock. So one more week left of MotorSports Magazine following tonight's show. 17 laps are complete. It's Steve Miller, Dennis Demers, Dave Whitcomb, Mike Knapp, and Dwayne Lanphier. Laps remain in this first segment. The International Series race for the late model Sportsman. Steve Miller leads it. Dennis Demers is second.
Only 10 laps out, and again, Steve Miller gets a nice jump on the restart. They got to figure out how to catch Miller on those restarts, because he is really doing them in. It is Miller, Demers, Wickham. Then a lapped automobile, the 52 of Schwartz. The fourth automobile is actually the 80 of Mike Knapp. And then the 40 of Dwayne Lanphier is your official fifth place car. You take a look at some of the automobiles running a bit on the back. Trouble up at 3. Dwayne Lanphier gets to the back of the Keysar, never lets up, takes him all the way around doing the 360. Dwayne Lanphier got to the back end of the 21 and never left it. And he paid for it. Dwayne Lanphier was greeted with a black flag that time. It was a situation, it was uncalled for. Lanphier tagged the back end of 21 and then just simply never lifted it, took him all the way around.
17 laps complete. 9 to go in segment number 1. It's still Steve Miller and Dennis Demers.
Well, let's see if they can figure out a way to get Miller at the line. Does not appear so. They make it close, though, with the 3-car breakaway. That's Miller, Demers, and Wickham. Dave Wickham stays to the inside. He will take second from Demers. Trouble up in 2. And let's forget about that. As the leaders come off, you can see Wickham working over Demers, but it's all for naught. They go back to last lap completed. The trouble I spoke of, well, about a half a dozen cars that drive the same piece of real estate. The one most damaged appears to be the 96 of Fred Lagoy. We're going to line them up. We're going to try it again. Your top 5, Miller, Wickham, Demers, Knapp, and Brent Dragon.
Steve, we want to remind everybody to stay with us. A very important race coming up next. That's the Flying Tiger feature. More so because of the fact that Ron Weston will not be in this race. Ron Weston has been suspended for the rest of the season, so his point total will stay the same. And now that means about 5 different drivers have a shot at the track championship, Steve.
Yes, and all 5 of those guys during practice and the ones who came out earlier for a second heat appeared to be very strong, and Ron Weston is in attendance. I talked to him in the pits, and obviously he wished there was some way of protecting his lead, but there isn't. He's got to sit and hope that with the additional cars that made the trip over, that the guy chasing him won't get good enough finishes.
Interesting, get a chance to talk to Weston. What did he have to say about the incident that led to his suspension?
Well, Ron is saying that he was a bit hot-headed going in the pits with Joe Steffen, but it was blown out of proportion. I was not there to see what happened in the pits. Heard some stories, and Ron just says it got a little bit blown out of proportion.
We had a chance to watch the semi-feature for the Flying Tigers earlier on tonight. It's a race that we did not record due to time restrictions, and it seems as though the 61 car of Robin Wood and the 29 of Mark Lamberton have developed a bit of a rivalry, Steve.
I'll tell you.
2 or 3 times, Wood, let's face it, he could not get by Lamberton. Lamberton is the better driver and has the better car. So Wood decided to park him by spinning him out of the way to go by. So a bit of a rivalry developing between those two also.
Well, I'll agree that Lambert's car seems to be superior. He seems to, when the opening's there, he can get through quicker. But I don't know about drivers, only because Robin Wood has been a model of consistency. But there was an incident that Robin Wood did get to the back end of Mark, took him around. But I'll tell you what, Mark Lamberton's car was not damaged. When he completed in the back of the pack and finished that race, he was moving up in a hurry. So there was no damage done to the 29, and that happens to be one of the cars chasing Weston in the points battle.
Steve, how many wins does Robin Wood have this year?
Okay, point taken, but who's higher in the point standings?
We shall see after the next two races. You wouldn't care to make a little wager as to who finishes ahead of who, would you?
Not particularly, because that tells me if there is any rivalry, those two guys will settle it on the track, and that means that one, if not both, may not finish. And Rob Weston would like that.
17 laps are complete in this first segment for the late model sportsman. 9 to go, and then we'll have that feature event we were talking about. 20 laps for the Flying Tigers. It's all part of MotorSports Magazine from the Airborne International Raceway.
Getting set to go back to green flag action with 17 down and still 9 remaining in this first segment. Steve Miller and Dennis Demers once again lead him to the stripe. Well, an 1800 restart. They're getting closer to Miller. In the battle for the title, Wickham runs 3rd. Brian Hoare runs about 9th. Up front, it is Miller, followed very closely by Demers. It's Wickham, Dragon, Scott, and Nash. 8 laps remaining, so plenty of time for some of these guys to move their way up. I'll tell you, the guy in trouble, and since International Series hopes go right out the window, is young Brian Hoare. Brian Hoare is stuck in the high groove, going very slow, and taking himself out of the international title. Back up front, though, well, they're not taking themselves out. It is Miller, Demers, and Wickham, and Dave Wickham must like the way things look right now. Miller started off pole. He's hoping to finish in that same #1 position as Phil Scott catches Red Dragon to the inside. Where did Phil Scott come from? That's the guy I hadn't mentioned a whole lot of, but the black and green 14 machine of Scott up the 4th, gets loose, and Dragon's battling back for that position. Well, the leaders are going to come up on yet another caution. The 75 of Pete Pacto and the 68 of Jim Silly got together up in 3 and 4. That'll bring out another caution, and we'll have about a 6-lap shootout to the end. Getting set to go back under green flag conditions. Going to be at least one more lap, however, as the lights still flashing on the pace car. Good chance to take a peek at how the cars are lined up with 6 laps to go. Of course, Steve Miller and Dennis Demers in the front row. Dave Wickham and Brent Dragon make up row 2. Phil Scott, Mike Knapp in row 3. Chris Durkee and George Bissett in row 4. Matt Sear and Joe Thomas round out the top 10. But in all feasibility, it's going to have to come for the first couple of rows, I would say, with only 6 to go. And Miller, Demers, Wickham looking awful strong. Looking back a little bit here, scanning some of the other automobiles. A lot of cars still remaining. Even though we started quite a few, we've had some cautions. Most of the cautions, not for the worst of incidents, minor incidents, and that has allowed a rather short attrition rate.
Steve, that extra lap there for Brian Hoare to get back to the track. And really a 2-car shootout for the championship of the International Series, and Wickham now with a huge advantage over Hoare.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Brian Hoare really needs to get the second segment of this in and hope it doesn't rain. The restart, surprise, surprise, the 00 stays in the lead. Wickham, bumper bag is Demers. Dave Wickham all over the side of the 86 car of Demers. Right behind there, a couple of cars side by side, Dragon and Scott, and those guys, if they had a few more laps, could have done the same, but it's just not going to be enough with 5 laps to go. Double up in two, and I mean big time. Richard Bootsy, Tipatinka came together, but it was Bill Fountain who finished the Bootsy machine off. The leaders do not get the caution. As other cars, now we have even worse problems. Matt Sears sliding through the infield. We've got Ed Capade and Jim Barton together. We have got a mess in a couple of sections of the track. And what that means, another caution. Oh, one thing for sure, Rick, they've had their share of cautions this race.
It's been a really long day here at Airborne, Steve. You and I got here about 10 o'clock in the morning. We were ready to go 1 o'clock. The unfortunate thing, as soon as we had all our cameras and microphones set up, the rain started. And it rained, and then the track dried. And about 2:30, 3 o'clock, we were ready to go again. We hooked up all the cameras and the microphones, and it rained again. And finally got underway shortly after 5 o'clock, actually closer to 5:30. And I'm sure this long day here at Airborne is also taking its toll on these drivers who have been here for, right now we're approaching the 8-9 hour mark. And guess what? They're going to have to get a quick night's sleep and come back and do it all again tomorrow. You won't see it tomorrow, but we'll have all that action for you next week on MotorSports Magazine, next Thursday night.
Getting ready to go back at the green flag with 21 down and 5 to go. Miller and Demers set the pace once again. Well, Dennis coming close at the stripe, but going into one. Miller pulls away. Now Wickham gets the inside of Demers. Wickham will take second. Phil Scott is the man on the move with the 14. And once again, caution on the speedway. Caution for the 45 of Brian Hoare, who was up against the wall in turn one. Did not hit the wall, just simply lost power. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Well, we were just notified that there's been a change in the scheduling, and some of these guys are going to like it. They're going to complete this segment, then run the Tiger and Street Stock makeup features, and then call it a day. No pre-qualifying for the Fall Foliage 300 or the second segment scheduled for tonight, so a lot of these guys are going to like that.
Well, that's not going to affect our program.
No, not at all.
We will go on with our schedule as usual. It's just going to seem funny seeing half the race in darkness and the other half in lightness. Lightness, is that a new word I've invented, Steve?
What was that?
I think I invented a new word.
What was that?
Lightness.
That's what I thought you said. Well, you see, you watch MSM, you learn something new every week. 21 down, 5 to go. No fans, it's not deja vu. We just never got another official lap in the books since the last restart. Miller and Demers once again get the green. With 5 laps, can an upset occur and the 14 of Phil Scott get to the front? Well, he's outside of Wickham, the battle for third right now. Well, while Miller and Wickham usually have the quick cars, no doubt about it, that 14 has got the power plant tonight. Speaking of power plants, one guy who was glad for the some 5-hour rain delay earlier today, Jean-Paul Cyr, he blew an engine in practice, and all that rain delay, some 5 hours worth, allowed his crew to put a brand new power plant in the Realty World number 32. It is Miller, then Demers, then a great pit comes out for third between Wickham, Scott, and Brent Dragon. The drivers will finally see the 2 left to go sign. Miller looks like he's got it his own way here. He's got a car and a half length over the 86 of Demers, and Dennis does not seem to be able to get up to him. But of course, with Brian Hoare retired a couple of laps ago, Jay Wickham running third. Looks like a sure bet Wickham will probably clinch the international title. Last time out of 4, and Steve Miller says, oh my, an end of a long day. Miller picks up the win from the pole. Dennis in her second. Wickham third, Dragon fourth, Scott fifth. Jerky 6, followed by the 80 of Knapp, and then the 66 of Joe Thomas. It took a while, but it was worth it for Steve Miller fans as he started on the pole and ended up in the #1 position. Never lost the lead, but he had a few challenges. Miller gets the win, but more important, Wickham by finishing third. Looks awful good for him for the international title for 92.
Impressive performance by Steve Miller, picking up the victory, but also a good run by Dennis Demers. In the middle of the season, Demers really wasn't showing anything. Picked up a win in the last event here at Airborne, the last regular event, the 100-lap race a couple weeks ago. Good second place finish for Dennis Demers. Dave Whitcomb, as you said, Steve, gets the third spot and pretty much clinches the International Series championship. It would take a miracle, let's face it, for Whitcomb not to win it. Brent Dragon finishes in the fourth spot, and the fifth spot goes to Phil Scott.
Now, Phil Scott was the impressive guy that race. He started near the middle of the pack, I guess, but he really was running with the leaders, had the speed, just didn't have enough laps.
So the Flying Tiger feature is coming up next. Stay with us. This is a battle for the track championship. 2 feature events to go for the Flying Tigers, and we'll review the point standings as the cars come out on the track. We get set to go. 20 laps for the Flying Tigers. And Steve, as we said, this is a battle for the points championships. 2 main events to go. The next one we'll have for you on MSM next week to review the point standings.
Real quick, Ron Weston, 846. Chet DeVardi, 805. Robin Woods, 787. Randy Yance, 780. And Mark Lambert only one back with 780. So basically, you got your top 5 there. And any of them could be track champ, but it does not look like Ron Weston will be the pick. He is sitting out this race after being suspended for an incident a couple of weeks ago at Thunder Road. The cars are out of the speedway. Brian Lockerbie and Ernie Halsberg. Get it, fans. We got the green flag, but what you didn't see is Mark Lamberton get plowed into to bring out a yellow. We had Crash Craddock, Jim McComb, Doug Murphy, Mark Lamberton, and Ray Claflin simply take each other out in turn 4. So caution comes out, and Mark Lamberton is going to be forced to pit. Oh my goodness. Well, fans, we did not expect this. As Lamberton forced to pit, of course, if he makes it out before the race starts, he will not lose a lap. Coming from behind is nothing new to Mark.
Folks, if you were with us earlier on, you heard Steve and I talking about the battle between Robin Wood and Mark Lamberton.
Yes, they did.
It's clearly as to whose sides we're on.
Maybe.
Tell the folks who you picked, had the audacity to pick.
I said Robin Wood is a model of consistency. I am not a fool. I picked Mark Lamberton because I think he's the quickest car on that track.
Unbelievable.
By the way, Mark is back.
Good. I'll make no bounds about it. Even though we do have a bet on the race, I still want him to win. I hope you win, Hayes. I can't believe you.
Well, I'll tell you what.
We've been doing this show on television now for 2 years. We were on the radio for 3 years. And you and I haven't agreed on one thing in 5 years.
Oh, that's not true. We agree that there are certain drivers that may not be in attendance now that maybe shouldn't be in the divisions they run in.
You got yourself in trouble for a comment like that last year, didn't you?
Yeah, but I talked to the guy. We're all kosher, and I explained that it was not the way it sounded, and we're all squared away. No problems.
Well, as they reset this lineup for the Flying Tigers, 2 main events to go, and you heard Steve with the points earlier on. It's anybody's race. If you had to pick one right now as to who the track champion's going to be, Steve, who would you pick?
Well, you look at it this way. DeVarney only has to get 41 points to take it, assuming none of the guys behind him get it. I got to say DeVarney will get the job done. In case you're wondering, Mark Lamberton is sitting 86 points out of the lead. Now, it's 50 points for a win, so as you can see, he pretty much has to win one and be very close to winning another one. Once again, Ron Weston's in the pits. Talked to him before the races started. Of course, I talked to everyone before the races started with a 5-hour rain delay. He He wishes he could be out there to protect his points lead. He obviously cannot, but I'm telling you, he is watching any race these Tigers are involved in very closely.
There you see the 29 car of Lambert. Doesn't appear to be any major damage on that car as a result of that incident.
Mark Lambert, 22nd on the field, 22 cars to answer the call with 20 laps, so it would be nothing new for Mark to get to the front. He certainly has enough time, but then again, there are guys out there who have something to say about it. If you don't succeed at first, try again. The motto here, a complete restart. Brian Lockerbie and Ernie Holmes set them on their way. Brian Lockerbie jumps out to the early lead with a black number 94. Trouble behind. There's a lot of bumping going on. Kevin Sorrell with a 49 involved, but gets it straightened out. 3 wide going into 3. Hang on, fans. One car definitely on the move, the 61 of Robin Wood. Robin Wood went right in between a couple of competitors, but right now Mark Lambert is right behind Wood, looking to set his sights to get past them.
Steve, we're going to follow Lambert in here for a few laps and see if he can work his way through this maze of lap traffic.
3 wide coming out of 4. With the Tigers, it works. With any other division, it's a 50-50 chance. Lockerbie still your leader. Actually, he's got about 6 car lengths over the 79 of Ernie Holmes, but all the big names coming behind. Robin Wood, like he shot out of a cannon, going 3 wide and making it work as he passed about 4 cars at the backstretch. Robin Wood is hooked up, fans. Trouble coming out of 4. Jason Leo tagged cars all over. Al Mann considered Jason Leo, the 90 of Claflin involved. Everybody else avoids the situation. Couple of top names, DeVardy and Foster, slide off a 1, but there's no damage. As you can see, Madden and Leo have a little bit of separating to do here. Oh my. When the points are on the line, things happen. These Tigers will have been the cleanest, if you will, division of our 3 weekly divisions. They go with the fewest cautions. Do not look like they're going to live up to it fall foliage weekend.
3 laps down, 17 to go. It's Brian Lockerbie leading the way.
Story of the race, rows 4 and 5 made up of the guys chasing Weston. Wood, Lamberton, DeVarney, and Jens. They're all together, fans. They stack them 3 wide going into 1. Mark Lamberton, his customary outside group. Wood is tagged by Sawyer, and it's Mark Lamberton coming out of turn 2 with the 3rd place. Mark Lamberton is running 3rd. I told you he was fast. The 29 machine is ready to prove it. He knows he's got to pretty much win both of them. Once again, he is 80-some points behind the lead, and he is determined to pick up 50 here. It is Lockerbie, then Morrison, but for how long as Lambert moves to the outside of Morrison's 48, then Jans, Wood, and DeVardy. So the guys also in the hunt are right behind Mark. Expect perhaps a 4-car shootout involving positions 2 through 5 in the point standings. And of course, also expect Ron Weston over, they all take each other out. Mark Lambert, 1 car to take the lead. He has to get by. It is the black 94 of Lockerbie. Lockerbie falters. Lambert gets to the outside. Give Brian Lockerbie some credit. He has been strong in the 94. But you can only be so strong when that 29 pulls up next to you. Lambert takes the lead, but Wood, DeVarney, and Jans are not all that far behind him, fans. Well, Robin Wood takes himself out of it. He slides high out of 4. Robin Wood is going back in a hurry. Flat tire on the 61 machine. So with Lamberton leading, now DeVarney moves into 2nd. DeVarney's ahead of Lamberton in the points. If they finish 1-2, DeVarney would still be ahead of him. Once again, DeVarney only 41 points or 41 points out of the lead, and Mark Lamberton is 86 points out of the lead. It is Lamberton, followed by the 14 of DeVarney. Then comes Lee Morrison, Randy Jensen, Brian Lockerbie. Should mention young Lee Morrison, the 48. He's doing a great job to hold down third this long.
Steve,
halfway this time by.
Fine showing by Lee Morrison in the 48. We're halfway through, and he's running in the third spot.
Absolutely. Well, there's a clear track for Mark Lambert, and he has maybe a dozen Carlings between himself and DeVarney. All Chet has to do is catch and pass Mark Lambert. Good luck. That may not be easy to do. Morrison still running third with Yance running fourth. Ron Klein has worked his way into the fifth spot. But most fans are keeping their eyes up on the lead battle between Lambert and DeVarney. It's going to tighten up as the caution comes out. The reason, Al Mattins, number 27, is not moving up in turn 2. He'll break out a caution. It's going to bunch him up, and we are going to have one whale of a finish with 11 down, 9 to go. We'll have to wait to see if it goes back to 10 if they go back to the last lap completed. 9 laps to go, and look at the front row, fans. Lambert into the inside, DeVarney on the outside. They come very close, coming out of 4, but Lambert gets into it to take the lead going into 1. Randy Yance still a part of the battle. Yance is currently running 4th. However, a right rear tire apparently is not Robin Wood out of the championship chase. He has lost, I believe, 1 or 2 laps. Lambert pulled away from DeVarney. So it would appear that Mark Lambert may be en route to winning what may have to be his first of 2 consecutive feature wins. DeVarney closes the gap a little, but I don't think he'll close it enough. Ron Klein has moved up to 3rd, and haven't mentioned Ron much, but Rockin' Ron is on the move. Morrison runs 4th, Hutchins 5th. What happened to Randy Yance? Well, he faltered a bit. He's running 7th. DeVarney catches up another couple of Carlings on that lap. There are still enough laps for DeVarney to catch him. But Mark Lambert could be a mighty tough guy to pass, just as any of his fellow Flying Tiger competitors. 5 to go, next time by, and DeVarney is starting to reel him in. 3 Carlings as they come out of turn 4. 5 laps, 3 Carlings, the important numbers. But again, I stress, he may catch Lambert, but can he pass him? Ron Klein hoping both those guys make a mistake so he can inherit the lead. Klein running 3rd, but is a good 20 Carlings behind the 14 machine. DeVarney, a length and a half behind Lamberton. Doubtful that Mark's playing possum. More likely that DeVarney has got the right combination together. 17 down and 3 to go. DeVarney still has enough time. Once again, DeVarney is 2nd in the points. Lamberton is 5th. If they finish like this, DeVarney will still be ahead of Mark in the point standings heading into the last race. Klein runs 3rd, but Eric Williams is on his back bumper. Williams has come out of nowhere, but 2 to go. Everybody watching your top 2, Lamberton and DeVarney. You can pretty much throw a blanket over him in turn 1 as Chet DeVarney was right on the back bumper of the 29. Mark Lamberton staying on the low groove, the best thing he can do. He has 1 more lap to try to hold off the 14. Both Lamberton and DeVarney have tasted the victory circle so far this year. Lamberton drifts high, but DeVarney cannot capitalize. Half a lap to go. Lap traffic will not come into play. And as he comes out of 4, keeps the car heading straight, and Mark Lamberton wins it. DeVarney will finish 2nd. Eric Williams 3rd. Rockin' Ron will be 4th. Hutchins 5th. And Randy Yance did manage to get back up to 6th, but he loses points to both Lamberton and DeVarney.
Steve, one thing this finish will do, that's going to vault Lamberton at least 2 spots in the point standings. He'll move ahead of Wood. He'll move ahead of Yance. closed the gap some on DeVarney, although DeVarney right now has got to be considered the favorite to win the track championship.
Absolutely. There was quite a few points between DeVarney and Lambert, and only 1 point or 1 position separating them at the finish of this race. So while Mark caught a little bit, Chet still looks to be the guy in the driver's seat. But if Chet falters in the last feature of the season and Mark wins it, Mark could go from 5th to the track championship in a matter of 1 weekend.
Mark Lambert picks up the victory on his victory lap here at Airborne. We've got a street stock feature coming up next, and that'll be followed by segment 2 in the International Series for the late model sportsman. And then next week here on MotorSports Magazine, we're going to have a fantastic show. All the qualifying events and the main events for the 3 regular divisions here at Airborne, and track championships are on the line, Steve, so it'll be pressure time.
Absolutely. Coming into Fall Foliage weekend, none of the championships were clinched. All 3 were still to be decided. As a matter of fact, the battle for the Tigers was the one with the most points separating first and second. So if you think this is exciting, imagine how the stocks and late models may turn out.
Top 5 in the Tigers. Lamberton wins it, DeVarney 2nd, Eric Williams 3rd, Ron Klein 4th, and Eldred Hutchins picks up the 5th spot.
Napa Legends Street Stock set to do battle in the top row. The 55 of Bob Bailey, the 75 of Sparky LePan. Row 2, the 31 of Doug Shepard, the 88 of Charles McNulty. Then Ed Drake and Mark Brusso make up row 3. Joe Rotella along with Marchetti in row 4. Scratch at Chris Ida and Marchetti. Then dropping back to Joe Rotella to the inside of the 82 of Toby Ebersol. 49 is Mike Boucher, the 63 Don Moran, 53 Dave Rotella, 6 Tyson Drown in the purple, 74 of Dan Benoit. Your top 5 in the points. Dave Rotella, a mere 30-point lead over Tyson Drown. Joe Rotella sits 70 back. Then Greg Paye, Don Moran round out the top 5. Bailey, Alapan, set them on their way. Short field for the Napa Legends Street Stock. There are more in the pits, but this is the makeup event. There are several Vermont cars in the pits ready to qualify for the Fall Foliage Street Stock main event, which you will see next week on MSM. Sparky LePan takes the lead. Bob Bailey sits to the inside in the battle for second with a 31 of Doug Shepard. 3 wide action near the back of the pack. Once again, your points leader, Dave Rotella, the 53. Right now, he's right behind his brother, Joe. Now ducks to the inside. The man behind Dave Rotella, Tyson Drown, is near the back of the pack. So Dave Rotella looks like he could maybe do a great deal to secure the track championship in this main event. Sparky LePan still your leader. Mark Brusso moved up to second. Look at the battle behind, though. Some big, heavy hitters working their way through. Dave Rotella, Dan Benoit, Mike Boucher. I was about ready to say they completed a couple of laps with no problems, but not to be the case. Joe Rotella gets crossed up and turns it around in 4. Joe Rotella refires the automobile. He's a quarter lap from being a lap down. Your leader, the 75 of Sparky LePan. The battle for second. Shepard in the 31. Russo in the 2, looking a little bit farther back. There is your points leader. The red and white 53 of Dave Rotella. Once again, Rotella, 30-point advantage over the 6 of Tyson Drown. And a 70-point cushion over his brother, Joe Rotella. The black 31 of Shepard, the blue 71 of Mark Eddy. Mark Eddy has been improving near the end of the season, so not a surprise he's worked his way up a bit. Coming out of 4, once again, the battle for second between Shepard and Eddy. The 2 of Mark Russo trying to get involved, but he's a little too far back to get up to Eddy. Joe Rotella leading the 75 is Sparky LePan by about a dozen car lengths. The only problem, the 75 is the official leader. Joe Rotella is that far from being a lap down. Battle for second heating up. The 31 of Shepard, the 71 of Eddie. Neither guy able to move on the leader, the 75 of LePan. 8 down and 7 to go, the halfway mark that time by. I'll tell you the guy who is moving, that's the yellow 49 of Mike Boucher. If you're a regular visitor to Airborne or regular viewer of MSM, you say, what's new? That guy has been awful quick near the end of the season. There is the Boucher machine. If he could only started his trend a bit earlier this season, he could easily be in control of the points battle. The 31 of Doug Shepard getting challenged on the outside by the 71 of Mark Eddy. Well, Eddie better be careful because that yellow 49 ducks to his inside. The leader is a good, maybe 12 car lengths in front of that battle. Boucher gets past the Eddie number 71. Boucher up to third. Eddie not quite ready to give in, but he's going to have to. Boucher clearly gets a front. Eddie ducks to the inside. That move's not going to work, though. 11 laps down, 4 to go. Mike Boucher, believe it or not, may have a chance of winning this. He usually seems to gather a car up real quick when he's got an open track, and that's just what he has now. But he gets pushed high by the 31. It is still Sparky LePan to the 75 leading this battle. The 31 of Shepard runs second. The 49 of Boucher third. And the 71 of Mark Eddy also involved in the battle. In the points battle, Dave Rotella runs sixth. Tyson Drown runs ninth. Two to go this time by, and Sparky LePan has had no competition for the top spot. The battle for second starting to catch a leader, but with a lap and a half to go, they're not going to get the job done, I don't think. Still a super battle for second. Boucher is stuck in the high groove trying to dispose of the 31 machine in the battle for second. Last time around, barring mechanical failure or a complete lapse of judgment, Sparky LePan will pick up the win. It is LePan. They may be catching him, but time has run out. Sparky LePan picks up the win. Good battle for second. Give it to Shepard in the 31. Mike Boucher third. Mark Eddy fourth. Points leader Dave Rotella increases the gap by a fifth place finish. His nearest competitor, Tyson Drown, runs about ninth.
And we are just delighted that you come to spend the entire day with us. It's been a long one, but it's been